Welcome everybody to the first official public meeting of the Ontario, Canada Obelisk of the Novus Ordo Luciferi. The word Lucifer means bringer of light, and it is with this Luciferian spirit that we present today's meeting publicly, that we may foster the sharing of knowledge with one another and the cross-pollination between various different paths. So today we actually have a guest speaker. She is not a member of the Novus Ordo Luciferi, but she has some interesting views that I think would be interesting. We would find it interesting. Let me see here. 1 second. Okay, I will bring her on. Hi, Liberty. Welcome to the meeting. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, you are an artist and a marketer, and you study the occult as well.
Yes, I do.
You have been studying witchcraft since you were 12 years old.
Yeah.
First, you started with Wicca, and then you expanded out from there. Reading tarot, law of attraction, chaos magic, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Great. How would you describe your path?
I would describe it as, I guess the middle way, if you will, neither right hand nor left hand, and I personally don't find very much of a distinction between the two. But I would consider myself a chaos witch or a chaos magician because I believe that whatever you believe will be part of your perception and your reality. And that goes for everybody. So I believe that if you truly believe something, then it is true for you, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true for anybody else.
Okay. And what is the actual, how did you find yourself on the path that you're on now? Like, what was your journey to that?
Your audio is kind of messing up. You sound like a robot.
Oh, sorry about that. So yeah, I was just asking how you found yourself on the path that you're on. What was that journey like?
Oh, gotcha. Okay. The crazy, absolutely insane. I was raised Mormon actually, and I was pretty into it. I was like, "Yep, let's go, Jesus all the way." And I think it's a pretty common thing for people who are like really into Christianity, really into, I guess, the lore and the history and like trying to like prove it right, that they end up proving it wrong to themselves, or they go so far into it, so deep into it, that they realize that like, oh, this is actually not for me. So that's what happened to me. And that was around the age of 12. I was really looking into a lot of like feminism and exploring my gender identity. And in the Mormon church, it's like patriarchy on steroids. So there was like there was like no freedom for women. So that kind of pushed me into that because I was really interested in really being a leader in the church, but that literally is not possible unless you marry a man and you like puppet him from behind. But I'm a Leo moon. I don't want to puppet from behind. I want to be in the spotlight. So, yeah. So I got into witchcraft, Wicca, and because that was like the only thing available in like 2009. Um, that got me into Buddhism, and then still love Buddhism. It's great. And just in general, like world religions and like mythology, I've always loved it. So yeah, I think there was a time, maybe it was when I was 12, I can't remember, but it like, no, this was later on. It just clicked in my head, and I was like, you can live in a like really depressing life, or you can just choose to believe that there's fairies. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. Like, we get to choose what we believe, and it doesn't really matter if it's true or not. At that point, I didn't really feel like it mattered, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna believe that there's fairies, and it's magical, and that helped me like not be so depressed at the time. So yeah,
Yeah, I
just kept
can
going.
really relate to that story arc of your journey because I had
Yeah.
some similar moments and similar stages. So I was raised Catholic,
Yeah.
and I was really into it for a while as well. And I remember reading the Bible and
Mm.
realizing I was pretty young. I was reading it. I was like, wait a minute, something wrong here. This can't be right. So I went to my parents and I said, is this really, am I reading the right book here? Because this God that we're
Is this
supposed to
legit?
be good, is doing all these really horrible, atrocious, despicable
Yeah.
things. Are you sure
Yeah.
it's not actually a demon? That they're talking about in the Old Testament, especially.
Yeah.
And I never really got a satisfactory answer to it. But as a kid, you kind of just accept what the adults tell you, at least to some extent. But in the back of my mind, I had that doubt, from an early age.
Yeah.
But I did feel like I felt a calling to the priesthood, just like you were saying, you felt called to lead. Um, but as I, got older and I understood what it meant to be a priest in the Roman Catholic Church, I realized for one thing, you're going to have to give up having your own family, you know.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be a dad at some point. I always wanted to have a family. And so that right there was you know,
The big no.
a big no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a, what do they call that?
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker, exactly. And so also I was realizing that more and more of the church doctrine that I didn't believe in. And so
Yeah.
how can I be a priest of a religion that I don't really believe in? More and more, the more I learn about it, the less I believe in it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
went on my own kind of exploration of various different paths, including Wicca and Buddhism and things like that, which have continued to stick with me as well and
Yeah. I
continue to
think
influence me. But yeah, similar to what you were saying.
that's, sorry, what? What did you say?
Yeah, similar to what you were saying, that
Oh
same
yeah.
kind of uh, thing. And then where did you go from there? How did that develop once you started getting into that stuff? Where did that take you?
So I started getting into that stuff, and my mom always told me, which is funny because she was Mormon too. She always told me that witches of old were actually just medicine women, and they actually just knew the power of herbs, and they just knew how to heal people, and people got scared of that. And she would also say like science is magic. So she's like, you know, gearing me up to be a witch, and she doesn't even realize it. Um, because I loved science, I loved biology, I loved botany. So then I started getting into herbal medicine and like plant healing, and that lasted probably like 10 years.
Hmm.
So that was like from age 12, because I had I had a pretty bad scare with like a poltergeist situation. Now looking back, I think it was my mom's fear that created an egregore or brought in some kind of like bad spirit, and there was absolutely no spiritual hygiene.
Mm.
So there was no protection on the house, nothing like that, and I was trying to make a protection and she threw it away. So that ended up in I ended up in psychosis. Anyway.
Well, you often hear about poltergeists, especially with adolescent girls.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That statistically, you're more likely to see a poltergeist type phenomenon in a household that's got an adolescent girl.
That is why. Do you know why that is, or do you like know anything more than that about that?
Just statistically, and there are theories of why. I guess, the whole activating, certain parts of your mind, I guess, at puberty, something like
Yeah,
that. I don't know, but that's what I've heard, is that there is a correlation, at least, maybe not causative
yeah.
relationship, but at least correlation.
I mean, that's validating in itself, though, because I mean, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Well, what
Um,
kind of phenomenon did you experience? Tell me a little bit more about this.
I roll my eyes at the story because it was crazy. Okay, so a little backstory. I have seen spirits throughout my life, starting from like age 3 or something. It wasn't like super common. I think I've seen like 5 total until like age 12 when this happened. Um, and they always looked, not always, but like often they looked like full people. I thought that they were just people in the house. And I was like,
Mm.
whoa, who are you? And then I'd be scared and I'd like hide behind the door and I'd be like, wait, this is probably like a friend of my parents or something. I should not be rude. I should say hey. And then I would look back and they were gone. And like my parents weren't home or anything like that. So, but this specific time when I was getting into Wicca, I had a lot of fear in me because of Christianity and because of my mom. And so I was embroidering a pentagram because it's like protective in itself.
Hmm.
Um, and one second, let me drink some water.
Yep. It's interesting that you mentioned the fear, because I remember, and I laugh when I think back, but I
Yeah,
remember when I was a teenager and I started getting really into exploring other religions and stuff. I
yeah,
remember going to the mall in Kingston, Ontario, and I went to one of these small bookstores, and they had just this little esoteric, section. And
yeah.
I remember skimming through a book by, oh, what is the name of the author? But it was like this pretty tame book
Oh,
on
it always was.
Celtic shaman, neo Celtic
Oh yeah,
shamanism, you know, and
yeah,
it was mostly guided meditations, or astral projection based,
yeah,
things where she would explain the scenario, and then you would kind of visualize yourself going through that, and
yeah,
that was pretty much it. And but it was not Christian. It was,
yeah.
Celtic shamanism.
Were your hands
And
like shaking as you're holding? You're like,
practically, I was not quite to that level, but I it did cause me some fear, to even pick it up and
I
like
want to open some
actually read it,
portals.
because when you're raised Christian, that's instilled in you that even
Yeah,
like certain knowledge can be dangerous to have, you know to
yeah,
read a book, is dangerous.
mm, yeah,
And
yeah,
I remember that one, reading that pretty tame book, at the time. It actually caused some fear that I had to overcome to read it. I did end up buying it and reading it, and I read a couple other books by that same author. But now when I
perfect.
look back, I think that was, some pretty tame, compared to some of the other things that I've been reading, regarding like
Oh my gosh,
actual
now,
left hand path, material,
yeah.
so.
I was absolutely terrified of demons. I had nightmares all of the time, and I was like, oh, I don't want to like invoke any demons. No, don't do that. I work with demons now, like, not afraid. not afraid. But at the time, I was embroidering a pentagram to protect myself because I was getting into magic and I wanted to make sure that I protected myself. And I'm sure I was like doing, what's it called? Like casting a circle. I'm sure I was casting a circle like all the time. But I was like shaking as I was like embroidering this pentagram. And I was like, literally, it felt like I was like on the edge of reality. And turns out I didn't have the spiritual hygiene to understand like that when you go into trance, if you have no ritual, you can very often trigger psychosis. And so this particular day, I was embroidering I think I'd finished the pentagram, and then I put it on my like desk or something. And I came home from like a karate class, and I don't know why I went to go check the pentagram. I guess because it made me feel safe. It was kind of like a blankie, like a baby witch blankie. Um, and I went to go see it, and it wasn't there. And nobody else, like, there was no other reason it wouldn't be there other than my mom threw it away. Because I think she had like threatened to throw it away before. And me and my mom don't have a good relationship now, even. But anyway, so nobody was home, and I was like trying to like keep myself calm because I think I was making the pentagram because I already felt myself like slipping into a psychosis or like I felt in danger. So I go into the kitchen after all of that and I make instant pudding. And I don't know. See, like, I've seen spirits before, like, before this situation. So I don't know if I imagined this, if it was caused by the psychosis, if it was a hallucination, what. But I was making the instant pudding, and the spoon was up, like, on the bowl. And I was freaking out, imagining, like, I just felt this, like, older man energy, like, come through the backyard, and he just felt, like, really threatening. And I saw an image of him in my mind, so I was like, I must be imagining this. I still don't know. The jury's out. Like, I always want to keep an open mind, like, for both sides. Yeah. So who knows? But I was imagining, or, I saw in my mind's eye that he was coming up the path from the backyard into the house. And then the spoon from the instant pudding fell, but I saw in the corner of my eye this shadow hand like move it. That was it. I flipped out. It sent me into a spiral.
Basically, it knocked the spoon off.
Yeah.
It looked like the shadow knocked the spoon and then it fell without you touching it.
Yeah, I was like 2-3 feet away. It was because I was waiting for the pudding to set and the spoon was still in there. And then it moved and I was like, oh, nope.
So what happened? What was the aftermath of that?
I flipped out and I went to go stay with my dad for 2 weeks to calm down. And I guess that is when I stopped doing witchcraft. But it was really just spell work that I stopped doing. And I focused on herbal remedies and health and stuff like that. I think I was still interested in correspondences, like with herbs, but it was mostly herbs from then on because I was like, there's too many ghosts in my brain anyway. I feel energy too much anyway, and I didn't know how to protect myself at the time. So I was like, we're going to put that on the back burner. And I picked it up later, like 4 years ago. So
that's good because as you were saying before, that you weren't practicing proper spiritual hygiene. And you specifically mentioned that if you don't have a ritual, that you use to transition between a normal waking experience and trance state, that it can cause some problems. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate a bit on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, for sure. So I've had a lot of mental health issues. Sorry, my eye is twitching. I've had a lot of mental health issues in my family. And one of those is dissociation, and like what I've seen is like uh, psychosis prone depression. Um, so I didn't realize that it at the time, but when I was a kid, I was constantly going from like waking states into trance states, and it was the dissociation to like protect me. So that like made me prone to psychosis in general. Um, and then like my sensitivity to energy, I can't explain that in like a modern psychology kind of thing, but that would like pull me into a trance state like super fast, and I would have no way to like crawl out of this trance state. Um, so now I've learned, because of my specific needs, and also like throughout my studying, is that like the like main threat that in the grimoires and even Christianity and stuff, they say if you mess with the occult, it'll make you go mad. It'll make you lose your mind. You won't be able to come back. You won't be able to be a normal person again. And I have translated that or interpreted that into like you'll go into a psychosis and you might not be able to come back because it takes you so far from like waking reality. So what I've learned is like a main reason, at least in my practice, for ritual is to give you steps to walk into the, subconscious, collective unconscious or whatever. And then also you have those steps to come right back. So you like you don't get lost, basically.
So, in other words, like you could maybe even compare it to having a switch or a
Yeah,
sequence, a locking sequence and an unlocking sequence or something to enter into that chamber or to that
yeah,
state.
exactly. And I think in like modern psychology terms, it would probably be like um, a trigger, like a hypnosis trigger, or um, like classic conditioning trigger or something like that. Um,
Or
because
anchoring the state to a sequence of symbolic actions.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I find that that's like so important for people like me who have gifts. And I say it in air quotes because people are like, how do I know if I have gifts? And I'm like, it is not all that's cracked up to be. Like, it might be a super ability to some people, it might be a disability to others. So,
It gives with
like,
one hand and takes with the other.
what?
Gives with one hand and takes with the other.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
um,
It's like as a child, I could like communicate with the dead. So cool. I was a child. Like, I shouldn't have to think about that, But I was seeing like dead neighbors. Like, it's insane. So, yeah. It just kind of like I think it's weird that they're called gifts, I guess.
what would you call it, or what would be a better
Uh
term for it? Maybe.
abilities, I think. Abilities would be cool to say. Like, cuz it ability doesn't mean like super ability, doesn't mean like it's not like an add-on, it's just a thing. It's neutral. I feel like it's neutral. And to also like people can learn how to do it. So it's like I
Like an
didn't study to do
aptitude,
it.
maybe.
What?
like an aptitude.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you
Like I didn't
have,
study to it, but
like
could.
some people have an aptitude for art,
Yeah,
where it
exactly.
doesn't, they catch on a lot faster, and they just
Yeah,
are able to intuitively just do art a lot without as much practice, potentially.
yeah,
And some people really have to work at it to develop their skill.
yeah. But once they work at it, like however much they need to, they could reach the same level as a person who didn't have to try. Like it's still possible. It's just, you know, different paths for different people.
And now you are also an artist. And
Yes.
how does your occult and esoteric practice um, interact with your art, or does it? I imagine it
Um,
must, right?
do what?
I imagine it must have some sort of interaction or overlap.
Yeah. So, I have like I'm very interested in symbols, especially like dream interpretation and like the unconscious, and I identify as a synesthesia person, someone with synesthesia. So that whole thing of like symbols meaning a certain feeling, and like that can be like a secret message. I just find that so cool. And then like learning all of those symbols and making my art, I find things in the art, and it's all almost like a dream, like a message to me, my conscious self. Like this is what's going on in your subconscious. But um like on my Patreon, I actually have occult or like witchy coloring sheets. Um and in my other art, I guess I have like a cute, creepy kind of vibe. So the darker side of the occult definitely comes up in that art. Yeah.
Cool.
I have one piece that I recently did, and
Oh,
on
nice.
this will be on the Patreon soon as a coloring sheet, so without color. But yeah, got a few pieces similar to that.
Cool. What has the response been to your coloring book sheets?
I think people like it. People think it's cool. I have I worked on Upwork as an artist for like comic books and just odds and ends, just other stuff. And yeah, people tend to really like the cute with a splash of dark, or dark with a splash of cute. Seems to be a good mix for people.
Yeah,
I
yeah, for sure. I like that too. Um, the oh, esoteric coloring sheets is an interesting concept, and I don't think I've seen that. I've seen
that.
mandalas, but
Oh yeah.
not anything more esoteric than that.
Oh, that's
But
cool. I
there
didn't
is
know that it
something.
was. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. What were you gonna say?
So there is one thing that I have seen before that does remind me of it, and that is in the Builders of the Adytum, the BOTA. It's an esoteric order that was founded by Paul Foster Case.
Yeah.
He was originally initiated in the Golden Dawn, and then splintered off his own thing. Um, and it heavily focused on tarot. And one of the things that he would do is when you join, you would get sent this, I think they called it tableau or something, but it would be this big folded sheet, and it would have all these little line drawings of the major arcana cards of the
Oh, that's
tarot,
cool.
and then you could cut them out and color them. And what I did is I took them and I blew them up. So each one was like an 8.5 by 11 on a piece of card, and then I could paint it or color it a lot more, intricately.
Into
Yeah.
yeah.
And one of the cool things about that is it really kind of cements the card in your mind when you're coloring it, each individual card. And he had like this whole sequence where it would take like you a week to color one card, because each day you would just color one color. Like you would just do the yellow, and
Oh
then the
wow.
next day you would just do the red, and after each color was added, you would sit there and you'd just contemplate it for a little bit.
Oh, that's so cool. That reminds me of like the correspondences with the colors and the days and the planets. I wonder if that was like corresponding, but
Yeah, I
that's
think
really cool.
so. I think that it did connect with, he would have an association, like a correspondence with the color and with a sound, like a note.
Oh wow.
And if you participated in the temple rituals, the group rituals, they would
Mhm.
have chanting certain vowels and sounds at certain notes, and they would have like the little, those tuner things
Yeah.
that, you know, in
Super.
comedies you always see before they sing, somebody will go ooh, to get the note,
Yeah.
and then they also can, modulate their note to that, but that they would have that in the temple, and they would blow the note that you're supposed to hit, that you're supposed to vibrate or intone.
That's
And
wild. I love
it had that
correspondence.
correspondence with like the color and a planet and that kind of thing.
That's wild. Yeah, with my coloring sheets, I wanted to make it kind of like themed. So like while you're coloring, you can contemplate this theme. And this one specifically was like creating your own world, creating your own reality, and like this is like I guess mental energy, and the Ouroboros behind it, symbolizes like recycling. I don't know why that word came to my mind, but like the ever goingness of energy.
Yeah, like samsara, maybe,
Yeah, yeah,
to
I
some
think so.
extent.
I think so. Yeah. I don't know the like definition of that word
So
necessarily, but
that's
I'm
like the
familiar with.
cycle of birth and death and rebirth and
Right,
reincarnation and going through that over and over.
right.
What
Yeah.
are your
So
views on that? Like what happens when a
when we die,
person passes on, when their physical body stops working?
I think we get reborn into another body, but I don't think it's like me, Liberty, gets born into Joseph over here, and I am just like one string of memories and past lives. I kind of think it's like I'm a drop of water and there's a big bucket, and like when I die, my soul is like the drop of water, it goes back in the bucket, and then they scoop out as much water as they need for the next body. So it's like not linear. Like I don't think it's linear.
Yeah, I have a similar view where I kind of say that using different words, but similar idea, that each of us really is like a loose conglomeration of soul fragments that we were either inherited or picked up along the way, and they're just kind of loosely, bound together. And that's why so many people are internally conflicted, because different fragmented parts of their psyche don't necessarily agree, right?
That's interesting. Yeah.
And that when our physical body stops working, the physical body, the bonds between the different parts of the physical body break down, and then they go off and separate out and then go on to make other bodies, not necessarily even human, but like
Yeah.
bugs
Yeah.
and plants and things like
Just
that. And I think that, as above so below, something similar happens on you know the etheric or the astral level, where the bonds between those soul fragments start breaking down, and the soul
mm,
fragments all kind of go off and get reused to make other souls. But
yeah.
because it's not the same as the physical, there's like, It's more like software in a sense that it can be copied a lot of times. There's no limitations on how many times it can be copied, unlike the parts of our body. The atoms in our body are
Yeah.
finite, right? But the soul fragments can be copied over and over. And I feel like if you've gone through a certain amount of internal alchemy
Mm-hmm.
to forge those fragments into more of a cohesive clump,
Yeah.
which,
Well,
I call it the complete harmonized self, would be like the full uh, individuation, of
mm,
the self, that um, then it's not a loose conglomeration of parts, but it's working in such harmony, and it's like a full unit, and it will resist that breaking down process. And so
mm,
more
yeah.
like maybe huge chunks of your soul will get copied, and or maybe even the whole thing, rather
Yeah.
than getting split up and spread out.
Yeah. I've heard Damien Eccles talk about solidifying the solar body.
Hmm.
I haven't looked further into it, but I'm really interested to know like what, yeah, regular degulars, like they die, they get put back in the bucket or whatever. But like, what if you're a Buddha? You know, like what if you've solidified the solar body?
Yeah.
Is that eternal life? But I know you probably wouldn't like retain your ego. I don't know. That's something that's like on the edge of my study right now. I'm thinking about.
Yeah, it's an interesting field to contemplate. And I feel like Buddhism has a lot to say about it that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
You know,
that makes sense.
um, but what what other projects are you working on right now?
Currently it's mostly the Patreon, but I've got different tiers. So, um, the first one, which is just $1, it's my magic manual, mundane magic manual, and that's for people who like either don't understand how to get started in magic, or they they do understand how to get started, but they aren't getting results like with their spellcraft or their rituals. So it's mainly for like low magic. I guess it could be for high magic too, but I'm using those terms in like low magic being like material plane and high magic being like mental plane. Um, so that I put that together because of the like frequently asked questions I was getting on my TikTok lives. And then there's a second tier, which is my coloring pages. I've got like articles of like what I'm thinking about, and then also it's kind of like articles slash study notes because I'm like talking about stuff I've already studied, and then I'm talking about stuff that I'm currently studying. So I'm just like playing around with ideas, and hopefully we can like get a discussion going with that on there. And
And
what
how much
else?
is that second tier?
Oh, the second tier is $2 a month, so pretty expensive. Might break the bank, but yeah.
And
Um,
did you have another tier beyond that?
I just made another tier, which would be one monthly Celtic Cross reading in
Mm.
tarot, and that's like that would last like probably around an hour. I don't know if I just said it's $50, but um, that's 10 cards and an hour of asking questions, and I pull additional cards if like if nothing's clear, I keep pulling until it's clear. So those are
Cool.
the three tiers I've got so far.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And other than that, just doing TikTok and YouTube and hanging out, you know, working, studying the occult.
What kind of material would people expect to find on your TikTok, for example?
On my TikTok, I post dumb, silly stuff, and also I try to explain. So, like, I'm a Gemini rising. I really like to talk. Also a Leo moon, so I like to be in the limelight talking. But I'm also a Virgo sun. So I like to meticulously take these um, these concepts that aren't very solid and then morph them into words and try to explain it to people in like an easy way. So I take occult, law of attraction, law of assumption, kind of like well-being, mental health stuff, and I try to explain that on my TikTok in the best way I can possible.
Cool. What is an insight that you've gained through your esoteric practice?
Oh man.
Or something that maybe surprised you that you weren't expecting, or something that really kind of stuck in your mind?
I think honestly it happens like once a month. I'm not gonna lie. Like as I continue to practice and continue to study, I just get my mind blown all the time. I'm like, whoa, that's why that, and that makes so much sense. But I think that the one that comes to mind right now is one that I wrote on my wall because I didn't want to forget it, which is you can never step twice in the same river because the waters are always flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And like we might think that we're stuck in a pattern, but we're actually stuck in creating the pattern again, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
because it's
everything is always
constantly,
different.
if it's constantly being renewed, then you're constantly creating that same thing,
Yeah.
right?
And
It's not the
if you're
same,
creating
but
it,
you're
you can
recreating.
stop. Yeah.
Cool. Um, so where are the best places for us to find out more about what you're doing? So you already mentioned that you have a TikTok. What is the username on that one?
TikTok is Liberty Art Witch, and I think the Patreon is the same. You can find me on Instagram. I don't really post on Instagram that much, but I also have a YouTube channel with the same name, Liberty Art Witch. And I post longer videos on the YouTube about just occult stuff. I like to make a discussion about it. I don't like the whole like I don't know, I'm a leader, you're a subservient. I think that is old. It's not how it is, and like
Old paradigm.
yeah, it's old paradigm. I'm not the Pope. Even the Pope doesn't know everything. Like, I think we should all make a discussion about it, share our experiences, and then choose from that discussion what we want to integrate into our own lives so that we can choose better beliefs and live a better life. Like, yeah, on purpose, and choose our beliefs instead of just listen to somebody.
Yeah, I'm all about that too.
Yeah, yeah. I know. That's why we're friends.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put the links to all the different things in the description of this video after we finish the live stream. So anybody who wants to find those can come back, and those links will be active in the description. Also, we had said that at some point you're going to interview me on your channel.
Yes. Yes.
So people can find out more if they go to your YouTube. I guess was it YouTube or TikTok, or where'd you want to
Yeah,
do it?
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
So if people can go and subscribe to your YouTube, and they'll see me interview on there, and we can have another discussion.
Heck
Oh,
yeah.
one other thing before
Yeah.
you go, you had told me recently about an experience you had of illumination,
Oh
where
yeah.
it was that kind of a oneness. Uh, Maybe you can just describe it. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that experience you had recently?
Yeah. So I had done a lot of mental work on convincing myself that I had won the lottery. This was about a week before I actually bought a lottery ticket. I got the lottery ticket. I came home and I've never bought the lottery ticket before, so I didn't know how it worked. But the lotto numbers were going to be pulled like the next day at like 10 p.m. I usually go to bed at like 8 p.m., so it was like this whole ordeal. That day, I was like super anxious. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I don't win the lottery? What if I don't win the lottery? And it was, I think, right after I checked the lotto numbers and I realized I did not win the lottery.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I did not win the lottery. That I was like, really? I had gotten to the point where I felt like I had already won the lottery, that it was so surreal that the 3D was not reflecting what I knew to be true.
Hmm.
And in that moment, I stared at my dirty kitchen and I looked at the pot that was still on the stove, and it just hit me. I already have the lottery. The lottery is being alive. And everything looked, even though it didn't look, I didn't see actual light, but everything looked like it was shining from the inside. There was this like in my third eye, in my brain eye, it was like this orange, yellow, like green kind of like glow on everything. And it lasted about 30 minutes, and I was just tears streaming down my face, laughing because I was like, it felt like I finally got the joke. I got the joke, and it was like I was breaking the fourth wall, but I was the only audience, and I was also the only actor. It was so weird, and now the visceral feeling is like left me because it was, I can't remember, a couple weeks ago or last week or something. But it was insane, and it made me realize that like enlightenment is totally possible. It's literally with you all of the time. And also, people who are enlightened, they just they're just happy. Like, I don't feel like they know way more than you. But
Yeah.
yeah, what
Uh,
happened?
that's really cool. And I've had a similar experience. And when one of the things that it struck me was how similar that experience is to being in a non lucid dream and
Mm,
then realizing that it's a dream while you're in it, and
yeah,
then being like, oh wow, this is a dream, and then everything changes. It's
yeah,
like it's lit up from within, and you feel like it's everything is alive in some
yeah,
way and deeply connected to you.
yeah. I did feel a complete oneness. Like, I felt it was just silly. Like, this whole thing is just silly. Like, I cannot express to you how silly this all is. Like, it's just a silly joke.
I love that you
It's
described it
so,
as a joke and as like breaking the fourth wall.
yeah, it's
That's so
so
perfect.
funny. It's so funny. Like, if God, if whatever, like source energy could talk to us, I feel like it would literally be like, lighten up. It is literally all a joke. And
I
it's
like the
for you.
pun
Like,
there
the joke
too.
is for you. What?
Lighten up,
Yeah.
the illumination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lighten up, get enlightened.
Enlightenment. Yeah, get enlightened.
It's just all silly.
And it kind of reminds me of like the laughing Buddha,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or the trickster, the trickster archetype in all these different, mythologies.
Yeah. It it really did help me to see, like, wow, nothing is that serious. Like, even the most serious thing is not that serious. I don't know, like, when you feel like connected to the entire universe, and it felt timeless. So it kind of felt like, and by the way, I think my ego like came for a vengeance afterward, but um it felt like my ego was like taking a break, and yeah, it was timeless, and like a death wasn't even on my mind. But if I thought about death, I'd be just like, whatever. It's the same as a pot, like, or a kettle or whatever. Also, there was like an extreme equality. Like, there was dust on my microwave, and it was perfect. It was just, oh, I didn't mention this before. You know, when you look at um, like a miniature model and it's extremely detailed, and like there's dust, there's like, I don't know, water damage in the model,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, it's so cute. Like they did such a good job. It looks so real. That's how it felt. It was like, wow, they did such a good job. This looks like life. And it like I couldn't be mad at anything. Like there were dirty dishes in the sink, and I was like, that's so beautiful. Like yeah, I just can't explain it.
Yeah, it has such strong parallels to the lucidity moment that
Yeah,
occurs in a dream when it you realize that you're dreaming. That
yeah,
I feel like that it's a type of lucidity of the waking dream in a sense.
yeah. I think it really is. I think I was listening to The Power of Now like right before that. I think it was part of like probably a catalyst for this
Mm.
happening. But in The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, um, he talks about enlightenment being like just a higher consciousness. And I feel like he was talking about like a lucidity of mind, of just living. I totally agree. And
I think so
I
too.
like want to get there.
And it's interesting that you said that about the dust because in like a really strong example that I had when I experienced that, um, I was looking out at the pavement and I was
Mm,
thinking the pavement, you think of it as such an artificial thing,
yeah,
like generally, usually. But even that was glowing and alive and
yeah,
connected to me. And so when you mentioned that even the dust was perfect, it
yeah,
that connects with me when I was thinking about the pavement. I was looking at and just thinking that even that is alive and vibrant and full of you know the spirit, I guess you could say.
yeah, yeah. The like life essence. There was like a piece of dust like falling like through the air, and it was just it was like I had these like zoom in, zoom out goggles like the whole time. And it lasted about 30 minutes. I was crying and laughing the whole time. And I maybe it was like my third eye or like my inner eye, but it just felt like I could see the smallest details at the same time as viewing like what I could see as like a human. And it was like a huge dance. Like everything was just dancing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave it on that high note. I want to thank you for coming on today and
Yeah.
sharing your journey and your experience and insights. And
And I appreciate it. I appreciate being on here. It's good to talk to you also.
thanks. Likewise. And I'm looking forward to being interviewed on your channel.
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
So
cool.
that'll come up soon. We'll let everybody know when
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
scheduled to. Great. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, well, that was Liberty. And one of the things that I want to do on this channel is for these Novus Ordo Luciferi meetings is to have guests on from various different paths and people that aren't necessarily people that you may have heard of from this author or that author or this head of this order or whatever, but people who are doing real work, um, engaging in projects and esoteric practices and living their lives and gaining insights and sharing it with others, and to hear their stories and to see what they went through. And so we're going to have more guests on here. Some of them are going to be members of the NOL, and some of them are going to just be guests. Some of them will be prepared talks, and some of them will be interview format like we did today. Now, I wanted to move on to the second half of the meeting here. And in this one, because it's the first meeting of the Ontario, Canada Obelisk of the Novus Ordo Luciferi, I thought it would be appropriate for me to talk about what the NOL actually is. So, the Novus Ordo Luciferi, that is Latin for, the way I like to translate it is the new order of light bearers. Now, the word Lucifer, as I mentioned at the beginning of this live stream, is a word from Latin that means bringer of light or light bearer. And since time immemorial, light has been used as a symbol of knowledge and awareness, lucidity even. And the idea of the light bearer or the bringer of light is to share that knowledge with others. And the Novus Ordo Luciferi is an esoteric order, but it is more than that. It's a global movement of Luciferians, people who are engaging in Luciferian acts of courageously exploring hidden and forbidden knowledge and sharing it with others in order to empower them, to allow them to break free from oppressive power structures and belief systems, such as Liberty and I were talking about earlier, where that fear was holding us back, but somehow we found the courage to break through and explore and learn. And through that learning, we were able to emancipate ourselves from oppressive belief structures that were limiting our ability to think freely about the world and about ourselves and our place in it and all the various different mysteries of the universe. So the Novus Ordo Luciferi is all about that exploration into the hidden side of things, the hidden truths that can help awaken us and empower us, just like the fire of the gods that Prometheus gave to humans in order to emancipate them from the to be at least a little bit less dependent on the Olympian gods such as Zeus and them. And that's why Zeus got so upset at Prometheus and punished him. Now, that story of Prometheus is one of the more perfect examples of what I like to call the light bearer archetype. Now, within the NOL, within the Novus Ordo Luciferi, each individual member has a great deal of freedom with how they interpret things, how they practice, and such. But the way that we practice the group materials in the Novus Ordo Luciferi, there's no worship of Lucifer. That is a common misconception that a lot of people have with Luciferianism, is that it's about worshiping Lucifer. Now, there are some people who do engage in worship of Lucifer, and they are free to do so. But personally, I don't feel like it is necessary or even desirable. I don't necessarily think that it is the best way to practice Luciferianism necessarily. I like to use an analogy with heroism. So if you are practicing heroism, it doesn't mean that you're worshiping heroes. It means that you are engaging in heroic acts. You are taking actions that are heroic. That makes you a hero. That makes you practicing heroism. Now, similarly, if you are practicing Luciferianism, it doesn't mean you're sitting around worshiping Lucifer. That is not the key element of Luciferianism. The key is to attempt to embody the light bearer archetype in your own unique way, depending on your own circumstances. And what I mean by that is what I've already said before, in the sense that you seek out knowledge and truths, usually that are hidden or forbidden in some way by some oppressive power structure, and to share that knowledge with others in the hopes that they can use it to empower themselves and emancipate themselves from these oppressive power structures, to think freely, to free their thought process. So, to do so, to engage in that seeking after knowledge and especially sharing it with others, that is the light bearer archetype. And sometimes people will do so at great personal risk to themselves, because when you share knowledge that disagrees with the established doctrines of power structures in place, let's say like mainstream religions, or the customs of the society that you were raised in, um, there can be a backlash, because you are upsetting that power structure, and the people that benefit from that structure, whether they're at the top or whether they have gotten in themselves into a comfortable position within the flock, or the people who are, going along with this narrative, they will sometimes have a backlash against people who threaten that power structure with knowledge, with truth that contradicts what they're talking about. So that's what makes you a light bearer, or a bringer of light, or a Lucifer. So in that sense, a Lucifer can be thought of as a title of one who is embodying the light bearer archetype, or going through that light bearer journey. An example beyond Prometheus would be Enki from the ancient Babylonian. Another one could be real life humans, such as Galileo, where he shared information that he had derived scientifically that disagreed with the established doctrines of the Catholic Church at the time. And he faced a backlash from the Catholic Church for sharing that scientific knowledge with people that disagreed with the Catholic Church's established doctrine. So he paid a price for sharing that knowledge, for being a light bearer. Now, he may not have considered himself a Luciferian, but he was engaged in activities that were in accordance with the light bearer archetype. And so that's what I mean when I say that. Now, individuals who are members are free to interpret the word Lucifer in an expanded way as an actual entity with the name Lucifer, which they may or may not associate with the serpent in Eden from the Christian mythos, which they may take in a Gnostic perspective. I myself consider myself a Gnostic Luciferian, and the Novus Ordo Luciferi has a set of teachings which I like to describe as alchemical and Gnostic Luciferian. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is I referred to this as the first meeting of the Ontario, Canada Obelisk. So an obelisk is like a small coven of the order. And when one of these organizations or one of these branches gets big enough, it can graduate to being called a tower within the order. And even beyond that, if it meets certain requirements, a tower reaches certain requirements, they can decide to engage in planetary magic in the Babylonian mythos style, inspired by, and that would be called a ziggurat. So you can start out as an obelisk and then graduate to tower, and then if your local group wants to start exploring Babylonian planetary magic, then it can also become a ziggurat and go through a series of lodge style degrees that explores that planetary magic in that format. So there's lots of stuff going on. There can also be decentralized obelisks and towers that aren't geographically based on a physical jurisdiction. And these would be based on more of a special interest or theme, and would act more like an inner order. And these can have members that aren't necessarily physically located close to each other, but they all share that common interest in that theme of that inner order or their decentralized branch. So that's kind of the structure of the Novus Ordo Luciferi. Now, how do you join? What you would do, there are a couple different ways that you would join. You can go to novusordoluciferi.org and you'll find links there. But one way that you can join is by joining the Patreon account that I've set up for this. And the lowest tier is just $5 a month. And that will get you access to pretty much everything. There are some higher level tiers, but those are just for people who want to also get private one-on-one sessions with me. So you can pay a little extra, like I think it's a $50 tier that will get you one hour private session with me per month. And so on with the higher tiers. It's just more private sessions you can get with me. But the $5 tier gets you all the perks except for those private sessions with me. And what those perks entail, actually, before I mention the perks, and there's another way that you can join. If you wanted to pay up front for a full year, you can go to my Store Envy account. And if you go to jeremycrow.com, there's a link at the very top. It says store, and it'll get you there. But you could also go to novusordoluciferi.org, and the link is there as well. And you can pay $55 up front for a full year of membership. And so you essentially get 1 month for free if you pay up front like that. And what you actually get when you join, you get access to the system of occultism that I've developed, the alchemical and Gnostic Luciferian system of occultism that I've developed over the course of about 30 years of experience that I have in these matters. And what they focus on, we focus on a self-initiation, tarot, lucid dreaming and astral projection, alchemy, inner and lab as well, alchemy, energy work, mental disciplines, ritual magic, and occult philosophy as well. So you will have access to all the materials that are constantly being put out, that I'm creating more all the time. These teachings and practices for this system that I've developed of Luciferianism. You get access to all of that and support from myself and other members in your practice. You also get access to the private members only Discord server. And in there, you can interact with other members and myself, you know, any time of day or night, and we can talk about anything we want in there regarding the teachings and materials or anything else related to the Novus Ordo Luciferi. We can help organize events and all kinds of things like that. We use a Discord for all kinds of things like that. And membership also gets you access to the Luciferian Research Society website. Now, this is like a social media website, a private social media network just for people who practice occultism, and artists and philosophers, that generally are more leaning toward the left-hand path of things, or at least open to that kind of material. And so it's called the Luciferian Research Society, and that was founded by myself in 2008 as almost like a community center. So there are multiple esoteric orders that actually utilize private groups within the Luciferian Research Society to organize and discuss things amongst their members. But there are also other discussion groups that are open to anybody to go in and discuss various different topics like Babylonian mythos and magic, you know, tarot, dreaming, various different things like that, sharing your artwork, all those various things. And normally, membership in the Luciferian Research Society website is normally $1 a month, but for NOL members, that fee is waived. It's included within the $5 per month fee that you're paying for the NOL already. That gets you access to the LRS website at no additional cost. So the other thing that gets you access to is I will be teaching online courses on a very regular basis. I already did one late last year for lucid dreaming and astral projection, and I got a lot of really great feedback on that. And so what I'm going to be doing is every month I'm going to be teaching online courses over the course of a period of time. So we'll have multiple sessions with a bit of time in between them to do the practices and engage with it and come back to it with questions and notes that we can go over, and we can all learn this in a group type setting. Now, these courses will be open to basically anybody, and on average, these courses will cost about $45 to access. But if you are an active member of the Novus Ordo Luciferi, like a paid up member of the NOL, then you get access to all of those courses at no additional fee. So that's an additional $45 value every month on top of the value that you get from the accessing the LRS, which is another $1. But yeah, this is all for just $5. And another perk that I haven't announced, I'm announcing it right now, basically, but something that I've been meaning to share is that for NOL members, if they want to get a private tarot reading or cartomancy reading from me, on my Store Envy shop, I have a series of options available for that. 1 card reading, 3 card reading, 6 card reading, 10 card reading, and 11 card reading. And I have specific layouts that I've designed for each of those various different options. Now, if you are a NOL member, paid up member of the Novus Ordo Luciferi, you will get an automatic free upgrade if you want to get a tarot reading or cartomancy, playing cartomancy reading from me. So for example, if you pay for the 1 card reading, you'll get an automatic upgrade to the 3-card reading. If you pay for the 3-card reading, you will get an automatic free upgrade to the 6-card reading. So, and so on. So that can be a savings of between $20 and $50, depending on which one you pay for and the amount of upgrade that you would get for that. So all of those different things are value adds to members, although the core of the order is going to be learning about esotericism and being part of a movement and getting together and sharing and cross-pollinating ideas with each other and building a movement together, building community, getting these local groups going. They won't all just have online meetings like this one. Some of the meetings will be physical, in person. And so we can get together and share knowledge and share camaraderie. And we actually, the Novus Ordo Luciferi hasn't been around that long. It was launched on December 21st of 2023. So it's only, a few months, 4 or 5 months. And we already have members in 6 different countries around the globe. So we have Canada, United States, Mexico, Brazil, Australia, and Egypt. We even have a member in Egypt, and it's growing from there. And so you can be part of that movement, and we can share knowledge with each other, and we can share knowledge with the rest of the world as well through public outreach and engaging in public discussions such as this, public rituals. There are group rituals that you're going to be experiencing if you follow this. Even as a non-member, you get to experience a lot of this stuff. So I encourage you to subscribe to the channel here. This is going to also be mirrored on the platforms, social media platforms, specifically for Novus Ordo Luciferi, including a YouTube channel, TikTok channel, Instagram, and Threads. We even have a Facebook discussion group on there as well that's open to non-members that can explore the public material at least, and so that we can share this with the world and with people who are specifically looking for that information. And at this point, I shared pretty much all that I wanted to share about the order at this point, and let me just take a quick peek here and see if there are any questions or any comments that maybe any people want me to address before I sign off here. Let's see here. Oh, Seamus said my wife just mentioned Galileo right before you did. Okay. Okay, yeah, no specific questions here that I'm seeing in the chat. If you do have any questions, speak now or wait till the next meeting. Actually, let me tell you a bit about that. I already have the second meeting of the Ontario Obelisk already prepared. I have one of the members actually is going to prepare a talk on a subject, and that will be in 2 weeks from today. So at the same time, Thursday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 weeks from today. So that would be let me just take a quick peek at the calendar. That would be May 16th. That will be the next meeting, and you will be able to hear from one of the members a talk that he has prepared to share with all of you. So hopefully you'll come back and you will participate in that. Liberty said, "Will you do a bookshelf tour someday?" Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a bunch of cool ones that I meant to ask you for a book recommendation, but maybe we'll get into that when you interview me on your channel. Um, oh, one person, Aradia Phoenix, says they do have a question. So to become a member, you just subscribe to Patreon. What about the rite of self-initiation? Okay, yeah, so that's a great question. So there are multiple levels of membership. So what you just being a subscriber on the Patreon gets you access to the materials, but it's up to you if you want to actually put them into use, to actually engage with those materials, is up to you. So you are encouraged to put the materials into practice, and that includes practicing the ritual of self-initiation, which I provided to exclusively to members that they can utilize to form a connection with the egregore of the order and to um, enhance their experience of learning the system that I'm teaching within the NOL. And so you get access to all of the different benefits and perks just by being a subscriber to the Patreon or by paying up front through the Store NV shop link to pay up for a year. That gets you access to be a member, but you aren't fully initiated. You're not a fully initiated member until you've done that self-initiation rite at least once. And you get a chance to decide whether you actually want to perform it or not, because when you join, you get access to that material. You can read it and decide for yourself. And now there is something that you need to contact me in a private conversation that I can give you access to some of the certain keys that are left out of the written material that can make it more effective. But you get to decide whether you want to engage in that side of it or not, or if you just want to be an associate supporting member that reads the articles that come out and joins the courses that I'll be teaching and things like that. You choose what level of participation you are going to engage in. But paying the membership dues through Patreon or the Store NV gets you access to that. And then, of course, as I said, you decide how deep you want to go with it, how much you want to engage with the materials and perform the self-initiation, whether you want to be part of a local obelisk or tower, etc. That's up to you how far you want to take it. But yeah. Let's see here. The Occult Corner said, I'm a member, always present but not very active. I'm going to want access to an NOL t-shirt. Yeah, there are a few things that you can pick up, including like a dream journal, a t-shirt with the Novus Ordo Luciferi logo on it, a few things like that, that the Occult Corner is mentioning here. Aradia Phoenix said, so it's other ritual than the one for Ordo Luciferi. Yeah, so the Ordo Luciferi is an esoteric order that that was active in the past, and some of the material for the Novus Ordo Luciferi was taken from material that I had written for the Ordo Luciferi and edited and updated and improved upon based off of the different experiences that I've had and experimentation that I've done with the material. And I've just taken it and I've updated some of that material. And so yeah, there are a few things that I had originally written and utilized for the old Ordo Luciferi, which, it's the Order Luciferi still exists, but it is an open source system that anybody can kind of look at and utilize material for. Whereas the Novus Ordo Luciferi does take some of that same material that I wrote for that, updated and elaborated and improved upon, and I have it fitting with all of the other parts of the occult system for the Novus Ordo Luciferi that all fit together and all complement each other. All the different practices all relate and support one another in a complete system for that. So some of the material, was originally pioneered back in the Ordo Luciferi days, but this Novus Ordo Luciferi is a new thing. And but yeah, if you want to get a flavor for what some of the material in the NOL is like, you can look up some of the old Ordo Luciferi material to kind of get a little bit of a taste for what that might be like. But yeah, it is a different ritual than the Ordo Luciferi ritual. But there are some similarities, and some of the basic formulas that are utilized in it, some of that is the same. Okay, and I think that is it. If you do have any more questions on anything that we've discussed today, go to novusordoluciferi.org, and there is an email address there. You can send me an email and I will do my best to address any questions that you have about that. There's also links to the various different social media platforms you can follow on there, and as I post material to those platforms, and hopefully that'll give you a better idea of what we're about and how we operate and things like that. So until next time, 2 weeks from today, we'll see you again, and we will have a presentation from one of the members for you, and some more light, some more knowledge, and to share with all of you. And until next time, everybody,